Welcome, guys. I know it's a late Saturday night here, but I welcome you guys again for joining me with an episode of To the Garage, a new series I started where we'll be covering Xfinity and truck races. Maybe some cup races in between, but I kind of want to give the Xfinity and truck series races some love. We had the unique new Atlanta surface racing, and I honestly, I'll just get right out of the gate. I was not personally a big fan of it, but some people were. It was kind of mixed opinions, and that's fair. It was the very first weekend of the new Atlanta racing, the new Atlanta pavement, all that. How is it going to play out? We didn't know. But we'll go over both Xfinity and truck races. We'll go over owner point storylines for COTA and what that could mean with big entry lists. And yeah, it won't be a very long show, but then I still thank you guys very much for tuning in. As always, like I said, follow me on Twitter at StartAndParkCar. Subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, turn on that bell for all notifications. Go follow my friends at ARCA Racing on Twitter, at ARCA_Racing. The man himself, Brad Smith, at Driver Brad Smith. The last car genius himself, Brock Beard. The historian of NASCAR, NASCAR man, and the picture man, my main man, David Pequeen. Go follow all of those guys. Love them all. And yeah, let's get right into it. So we had the truck race from Atlanta. Now, we didn't have any DNQs, which was good to see. Unfortunately, like I said, practice did get rained out, as we went over yesterday. Practice did get rained out, leaving still only leaving 36 trucks. So they went ahead and took practice and basically instead of qualifying, made that practice. Practice results, it was the very first time we had seen vehicles on this track, and it was not a crash fest in practice like I personally thought it was going to be. And everybody ran, pretty solid laps. Nobody was really running slow. Some of the only trucks at the back of the field that didn't maybe want to draft practice, they were the ones that kind of weren't keeping up good speed. But we saw some really interesting vehicles inside the top 10 and top 20 at point in practice. We saw teams like the Glory to God team, both Glory to God trucks at one point were practiced inside the top 15. We had Timmy at one point was 9th. Austin Self was 6th. I mean, they were going all over the place in truck practice. So it showed that even a lower budget team, if given the right track position, they could make ground. They could make ground. And it was good to see. It was absolutely good to see this happen. And it really gave me an unfortunate time. Like, man, I wish we could have gotten qualifying to see which guys may have started where. But instead, we only got them lined up by the previous, some sort of weird mixture of owner points, last week's finish, and all that, which doesn't really make any sense. They should have just lined them up by practice speeds. They've done that in the past. I don't know why they couldn't have done it here. I'm still, and same thing should have went for the Xfinity series. But we'll get to that when we get to the Xfinity portion. Anyway, race started, and right out of the gate, poor Matt DiBenedetto. I thought Matt DiBenedetto was going to be a shot to win this race, honestly. And unfortunately, right out of the gate, he pretty much blew his chance. Turn 1, lap 1, turn 3. I mean, you could say the 52 got into him, or you could say he got loose. It was kind of hard to tell. Anyway, the 25 goes into the wall. And going that fast, it's going to blow out. And Matt couldn't even get back around for one lap to try to get back to pit road. Tire went down again. Surprisingly, they didn't throw a caution. 25 got back to pit road, and after about 10,000 trips to pit road, finally got the truck stable enough, and DiBenedetto would officially pretty much start the race 12 laps down. A tough end for that team's day, as I'm a big fan of Willie Allen's team. I'm a big fan of Rackley Warren. I wanted these guys to do a lot better, and I still expect Matt DiBenedetto, number one, to make the playoffs. And I actually do expect this team to win. Not many people don't want him to win, but you may not like Matt DiBenedetto, but you will like Willie Allen getting a win. That's what we also need to focus on too. We can't hate this team just because of its driver. We have to love the fact, number one, Rackley War is a good sponsor. Number two, Rackley War is a cool-looking truck. And number three, Willie Allen's awesome. So, yeah, that was a tough start to the day for him. And then Hayley Deegan, who I mentioned, if you guys were following my Twitter feed today, that she needed a good run today, as the one truck was 31st in the owner's points. And, well, that didn't happen. She was running solid in about the top 20 until she got a flat tire, which brought her to pit road. She reported that the truck didn't sound good after coming back on the track. And sure enough, just about 15 laps later, comes back down pit road. And the left rear is literally on fire. I haven't seen a tire on fire like this in a long time. And I mean a long time. And then the whole truck filled up with smoke. They got her out. Thank goodness. If anyone ever seen Hayley in person, she's tiny. She's a really tiny girl. So, all that smoke can consume a small person like that very quickly. So it's very fortunate that they got her out as soon as they did. I can understand, a lot of people got on Hayley's case for not giving an interview. Look, the girl has had a tough season. I'm not trying to defend. I'm going to a little bit defend here. She's had a tough season. She needed a good run today, and her day's over in 25 laps. Do you think she really wants to speak to anyone? No. So that's the one part of the people getting on her about not giving an interview. Well, that's the one thing I'll defend. You've already had a bad enough day. You don't want to be on TV. You just want to go home. We'll get more about Hayley Deegan's situation when we go over the COTA thing, because it's a pretty serious situation, but we'll get into it in a second. By the way, I've been scrolling through my Twitter feed the last couple of seconds, and it looks like, unfortunately, kind of a side note here, we did have a fatality in some sort of race at Winchester Speedway. Apparently somebody hit the pit wall, car capsized, and looks like a seatbelt may have failed. So thoughts and prayers and condolences to the person who passed away at Winchester today. You always hate to see a racing fatality, especially in a lower league series where most of the time it's just people trying to have fun. It's not a really, really serious brand of racing. It probably wasn't. It was just a series where, it's serious, but it's also for fun. So thoughts and prayers are with that, with those people. I'm sure we'll find out probably the next day or tomorrow, I would say, who the identity of that person was, and may whoever that person is rest in peace. I always hate to see a racing fatality, no matter where it is. We don't like to see that in 2022. It's not what the racing series needs, and that's just a kind of a sad damper on what was a pretty good day of racing, and considering the fact that the 12 hours of Sebring just ended too. But back on track here of the truck race. Reason why I'm mentioning going in depth about DiBenedetto and Deegan is because not much happened. I mean, with all due respect, I didn't really think there was much happening. We went the first 30 laps. I don't think really anything happened. The 52 held the lead, and everyone just kind of stayed there. There was a couple of battles at the back of the pack, but nothing really, big. It was just kind of, let's just get to the end of stage 2 is pretty much what it was. That let's just get to stage 2 and let's get to stage 3. That's kind of all it was. Then we eventually had, after the first lap, first stage, we had a debris caution, which the 52 pretty much looked like a brake rotor exploded, a spring fell out. A lot of things came out of this truck, and unfortunately it retired the number 20 of Matt Mills, which was a shame because that 20 truck was 15th in the owner's points at the time of this race, and the 20 truck suffered a really big drop in the owner points, dropping almost 5 positions. Just a 5-lap dash to stage 2 featured a pretty good finish between Majeski and John Hunter Nemechek, with John Hunter picking up a win. Sadly, as we get later into the race didn't finish all that well for John Hunter, and what's been a very frustrating start to his 2022 season. Going back to green just 2 laps later, you got Dean Thompson, the 45 of Lawless Alon, and the 98. The 40 went into turn 3, and they just got loose. And surprisingly, it didn't take out the whole field. It only took out 3 trucks. Himself, his teammate, and also took out the 98. But the 98 was able to finish the race. The 91 of Colby Howard also got run into, but he was able to finish the race. Not many DNFs at this point in the race, which was kind of shocking. In fact, in general, only 6 trucks out of the 36 truck field failed to finish this race. Kind of shocking. I figured we'd have less than 20 finishing this race. So at this point, we also had 5 laps later. We had 5 laps. God, I'm just botching my words tonight, guys. It's been a long night. I'm sorry. The 30 of Tate Fogelman crashed out in a pretty hard crash. I felt kind of bad for the 30 of Tate Fogelman. He spun, and then 7 laps later, he got wrecked. It wasn't even his fault. So what happened was, apparently the 3 and the 15 got together. The 15 got put in the wall. So a couple of laps later, the 5th, or maybe the very next lap, the 15 hooks the 3. The 3 corrects into the 0-2, into the 30. And unfortunately, the 3 barely gets any damage. The 15 has no damage, and the 30 is totaled. And in those situations, you always hate to see the innocent bystander, in this case, Tate Fogelman, get taken out when it was nothing of his doing. You always hate to see that. I don't know what perpetrated the incident between the 3 and the 15, but still, when someone innocent gets taken out, that's when you know it's gone too far. Weird situation by this point that I actually want to point out. The 43 of Thad Moffitt, apparently from what I had heard, had went to the garage for an undisclosed, looked like a mechanical issue. And I don't remember what lap it was. There wasn't a specific lap, but apparently Thad left the track. Now, this is not kind of similar to what we saw back in 2007 with Kyle Busch and Dale Earnhardt Jr. So apparently they got the 43 fixed. Thad is nowhere to be found. So team owner Josh Reivew, helmet, I guess gear in hand, you always keep your gear in the hauler, throws his suit on, throws his helmet on, squeezes into that truck, and Josh Reivew is back out on the track driving the 43 at Atlanta with no practice laps. I'm like, that's a team owner right there. That is a damn team owner if I've ever seen one. But as we'll get into later, the day would not end good for Josh Reivew at all. And I wish we could all give that poor man a hug. Josh Reivew had a long day. We'll just get into that a little later. But yeah, he was actually driving the 43 truck as for some reason Thad was unable to be found. Unfortunately, a little bit later on, the 43 would actually fall officially out of the race after losing an engine. Our final crash, crash of the race was the 44 of Chris Wright, who himself had a tough race. He hit the wall about 3 or 4 times. He brought out a caution. I don't think it really needed to be a caution. It was just another case of a driver hitting the wall, which we saw many times throughout the entirety of today. A driver hitting the wall, but not coming to pit road. Nobody learned from the 25 truck. They hit the wall and would keep running, not knowing that sooner or later, the tire was going to blow, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened to the 44 truck. It blew out, and it caused another unnecessary yellow. Now, by this point, I don't know if it was past this point or before this point, but John Hunter had fallen a lap down. He had to pit under green. I believe this was after the 44 crash. So John Hunter he hit the wall under green. It wasn't a case where he hit the wall, rode around, and hit it again. He just flat out hit the wall and pitted right there. But he's 2 laps down, okay? And he came off of pit road about 6 seconds in front of the pack. But like Daytona and Talladega, even though this was a 1.5 mile, if you were by yourself, you were going to get caught eventually. And he did get caught eventually. And then I don't know how you guys would have called it, but you could say it was smart. You could say it was blatantly cheating. There are many ways to go about it, but point blank, John Hunter somehow got his way to 3rd place in line when they caught him and kept the rest of the field behind him and his 2 teammates in front of him. Now, me and others were not really happy about this decision, while other people were calling it amazing. Again, you can have your own opinion about this. My opinion, though, is that 2 laps down, 3 or 4 laps to go, get out of the way. I'm kind of surprised NASCAR, didn't black flag him. I mean, you could say, why would they black flag him? I don't know. I don't know how to call it. Needless to say, he pretty much held up the rest of the field from making more moves. And the 51 of Corey Heim, who I'll even give him a shout out. He did a great job all race staying up there. Made his move on the 18 of Chandler Smith, who all day, for some reason, even his own teammates decided to dump him. And the 51 of Corey Heim wins his very first truck race. Got to be in his first couple of starts. And congratulations to Kyle Busch Motorsports. They win yet another race. It was good to see Corey Heim get a win. Good to see an ARCA driver get a win. You know, ARCA, people say ARCA doesn't make drivers. Well, right there. Chase Briscoe won Cup race. Corey Heim won truck race. So don't tell me for 1 second ARCA doesn't make drivers. But yeah, very frustrated Chandler Smith after the race. Kind of low-key called out his teammate, Jonathan Nemechek, which I felt was warranted. And even in an interview after the race, Pockrass approached him, and he blatantly said it was to help the organization win. That was why the 4 was blocking. He didn't care if it was the 51 or the 18, as long as somebody from KBM won the race. And I can understand the frustration. I can completely understand the frustration from that team. Nonetheless, though, we just move on. You know, we move on from all that, and we go to the next race at COTA, where I don't think it's a little bit harder to hold up your teammates at COTA, considering it's over a 2 mile, 3 mile, 4 mile track, isn't it? So yeah. Some other notable runs, though. Thor Sport had a pretty good day. Outside of the 98 crashing, the 99 and the 66 finished second and third. Like I said, Chandler Smith ended up fourth, and Zane Smith was fifth. Other notable great runs for some lower budget teams: Austin Wayne Self finished 10th. Jesse Little for Young's Motorsports finished 15th. Chris Hacker for Josh Rayone finished 17th. Jordan Anderson finished 18th. And Matt Jaskell, in another good finish for the Glory to God team, finished 19th. And Spencer Boyd got 20th. Should note during the race that the 56 of Timmy Hill, who was having a really good run, fortunately, if you guys follow my Twitter feed, dropped a cylinder. And while, yes, it did make it to the end of the race, it pretty much wiped away what probably would have been a top 15 finish. Shame, but that's unfortunately what you call racing luck. They don't have any. Some other notables, Matt Crafton ended up 25th. John Hunter was 24th. Carson Hocevar was 27th. Benedetto ended up 30th. And like I said, our last three were 34th of Dean Thompson, 35th was Matt Mills, and of course last was Hayley Deegan. Overall, I didn't really think it was a good race. I saw some people saying it was solid. I didn't enjoy it personally. Now, you guys can have a different opinion because, you know, that's what people are allowed to have opinions. I didn't really like it. I don't know what you guys thought. I honestly, out of a 10, I'd probably give it a 4. Again, I just didn't enjoy it. It was great seeing a couple of low-budget guys get good finishes, but overall, that was kind of it. The one thing, though, that came out of Atlanta that I was excited about was the storylines heading into COTA. Now, right now, from digging in with teams and Wikipedia, from what I've confirmed right now, there are 39 entries for COTA. That's what I have right now, 39 confirmed entries. And the reason why I mentioned Hayley Deegan is, well, she's in a little bit of trouble. Now, there's not saying that she won't be able to qualify for the race on time. She could very well do that. But in the case she has issues in qualifying, that truck is 34th in the owner's points. The only full-time trucks that are below Deegan in the owner points is the 91 for the McAnally team and the CR7 7 truck, or the 9 truck, sorry. And that, I'm telling you, that is not good by any means. Not good for that team. And it tells you, man, she qualified 27th there last year. So she could probably qualify her way in on time again. Because, again, we're starting 36, top 31 make it on time. So Can she do it again? We'll find out. What if maybe rain will come again? We don't know. All we know is this: Deegan's got to be good but safe next weekend, because imagine the outrage of the Deegan fans and overall kind of the embarrassment. I would say it'd be a big embarrassment if she DNQs next week. Now, will she? We don't know. Again, she made the show last year on time. Can she do the same thing? You know, the track surface is now older. The conditions might be different. We might be qualifying in the rain again. Who knows? But can only say is, if you're Deegan, you're going to COTA, maybe not as confident as you thought you were, knowing the fact that I'm 34th in the points. Out of full-time trucks, I'm only ahead of 2 of them. I'm pretty much guaranteed nothing. And so it's a little concerning. It really is for a team like hers. You know, and some other teams I'd be concerned are the 91 and the 9 teams. You know, they've done really poorly in the first 3 races as well. Other notable teams that should be concerned, the 43 for Reivew, and probably some of the niche trucks. You know, especially the Glory to God trucks. You know, they've tried their best to gain points. The 46 is now 30th, but the 47 team is still stuck in 41st in the points. So you could say that even if they hire a road ringer, and, you know, there's plenty of road ringers out there. You know, I don't know if you guys have been watching the Trans Am series. They have a lot of road ringers, man. You know, Trans Am does run a COTA. I think they do. I'm not quite for sure if they do or not. But there's a lot of open road ringers out there, from IMSA to Trans Am to other road racing divisions. So we could definitely see maybe one of these teams maybe having to do the tough choice of taking out their full-time driver and trying to put in a road ringer. But I think the biggest thing to watch next weekend for that truck race and truck practice and qualifying will be the 1 truck. And can she make the show? And if she doesn't make the show, how bad is that going to look on her NASCAR career? Because, and again, you can't really blame it all on her. Like today, you can't blame it on her. You know, a tire went down. That's not her fault. A tire went down. Some instances are her fault. Some instances, it's hard to judge her career at this point. You know, you guys kind of agree with me on that? It's hard to judge. Some incidents are her fault. Some incidents are not her fault. It's hard to judge. But definitely keep an eye on the 1 truck next weekend, because that's going to, in my opinion, be the biggest storyline going into COTA, aside from the road ringers and probably a pretty big field. Other notables in the owner points, like I said, Timmy Hill's team dropped from 16th to 19th due to the cylinder issues. The 20 truck dropped from 15th down to 22nd in the points. Some other good ones, though, is that the 61 for Hattori was able to jump from 33rd up to 25th in the points. And the 33 for Reivew jumped from 26th in the points to 21st. Now, in terms of being safe for qualifying at COTA, I would probably say 25th and above are safe. Everyone below, make sure you're in that top 31. And that's all I'll say about that. Oh, a little halftime portion of this show before we get to Xfinity. We got 2 people watching, no likes. So for the 2 people who are with me right now, if you guys could hit the like button, I'd much appreciate that. Like I said, turn on the bell for all notifications. Follow me on Twitter. I won't get into all that again. If you guys want to go into that, watch the beginning of the video. And nonetheless, the 2 people who are with me tonight, I thank you guys for watching with me live here at 9:32 p.m. in the Midwest. So it's definitely late out there, especially if you're on the East Coast. A little bit earlier out if you're on the West Coast. But again, thank you to everyone who watches this podcast in general, and I gratefully appreciate your guys' support. So going into the Xfinity race, I've already kind of given my opinions on this in yesterday's quick episode of To the Garage, and I'm still going to say it. 5 teams got screwed, in my opinion. You know, I know the rule book's the rule book, but in this situation, 5 teams showed up to Atlanta and didn't even get a chance to get off the lift gate. Like, seriously, some of these teams, I don't even know if the 52, the 77, I don't even know if they got off the lift gate. And that to me is just sad. all the money to go out there, especially with these prices, the cost, the entry fee, which I believe is still $2,200. You mix the fuel cost. I mean, these teams didn't even get a chance, and it was probably a good, $5,000 to $10,000 loss. And they didn't even get a chance to hit the track. You just lost $5,000 to $10,000 without doing anything. And to me right there, that's still not fair. I mean, if I was NASCAR, at least, the one thing I would do is I would honor that entry fee for another race. To me, that's the only fair thing that NASCAR can do here, is that, okay, fine, you guys didn't get a chance to run, but we're going to honor that entry fee that you guys already paid at the next race you guys enter at. To me, that'd be the fairest thing they could do. Because for the 13 of Chad Fincham, the 77 of Ronnie Bassett Jr., the 47 of Brennan Poole, the 08 of David Starr, and God, who am I forgetting? Oh, yeah, the 52 of Harrison Rhodes. It's just not fair to them. It was not fair. I still say it wasn't fair. I could go on all day about this, but I still have to make that clear. I was not happy about that at all, especially when a lot of those guys had good cars and could have made the show. Anyway, the first thing I want to get into about this race, we love this series. We love NASCAR. Fox just blew it tonight. Tonight's racing broadcast was just horrendous. I can't, me and my friend Brock, we want to support it. We want to say good things, but man, Fox just S-H-I-T the bed tonight. I can't say the word, but there, I spelled it out for you. They really did that tonight. It was not good. No good. No bueno. No good. Another thing, like what Robbie Lyons said on Twitter, the showing of all the kids today, I kind of agree with him. It made me a little uncomfortable too. I don't want to see all these kids on TV. Great. You want to show the kids. You want to promote the kids, the fans of the sport. I like the idea. But showing the same kid over and over and over again, stop. I don't know why. It's weird. And it's just they cut to the weirdest things, and then commercial would come out, and then there'd be a caution. It's just like the broadcast just was not good. And then, you see people on social media when a hauler, once again, one of the storylines of this race is we had a hauler that Atlanta has a couple of tunnels that you can leave the track from. There's one that's specifically designated for haulers in traffic, and then there's one that's just designated for traffic. The haulers have to go down that tunnel. Well, the Rayom Brothers Racing hauler didn't. It went down the wrong tunnel, and just like what happened to the 42 Finley Racing team a couple years ago, smash right into the top roof, and the tractor looks salvageable, but that hauler, man, it's going to need a lot of work. Now, are the trucks inside safe? Probably. Is the equipment inside safe? Yes. It's not like a lot of the equipment was hurt. The truck may be a little bit of damaged, but overall not. If you take out the hauler, the damage wasn't overly severe in terms to the racing equipment. So I would imagine maybe that Rayom might be using some shop trailers, like a little shop trailer to get to the track, but like I said, after what I said earlier about Thad getting out and Josh having to drive, overall, it was not a good day for Josh Rayom. Yeah, the race started here in kind of the same way. We went 20 laps. For some reason, we had a competition caution. I'm kind of tired of the competition cautions, Yeah, I know we had tire issues in the truck race, but that's because the guys were hitting the wall. I didn't understand why we needed a competition caution. And everyone just seemed fine. And lately what we've seen is the competition cautions just seem to cause more issues. That's what they just seem to do. Luckily, it didn't. We ran another 15 laps to stage one. Stage one winner, I believe, was actually Josh Berry, which was good to see. Then they just ran to the end of stage two. Stage two winner on lap 80. On lap 80 was AJ Allmendinger. And then we ran our first 18 laps, and then we kind of got to finally probably the biggest accident we had seen to this point, which was Jeremy Clements, Jade Buford, Anthony Alfredo and Jeb Burton. Aside from Brett Moffitt, the other two Our Motorsports entries have been getting quite into a bit of trouble this year. Anthony Alfredo and Jeb Burton have not really had successful starts to 2022. While Brett's just kind of there. That's the problem with the Our Motorsports equipment. It's not the best, and it's kind of 12th to 10th at best. Some tracks it's probably 5th best, but it's not a winning team. They're not a winning team yet because it's just so hard to beat those upper guys. But unfortunately, that took out Jade Buford and took out Jeremy Clements, which it's a shame for Jade Buford. Despite the greatness they had at Daytona with that qualifying run, it's been a really rough go so far for Jade Buford and the Big Machine team. And, we'll get into their situation for COTA, and it's not looking good. The 48 team better be thankful that Jade is a road ringer and that they have an RCR alliance, because they're going to need that speed when we talk about the post race and what that'll mean for COTA. But yeah, that knocked out the 51 and the 48. A couple of laps later, we had Joe Graf, who was restarting up front, and the 11 of Daniel Hemrick. Joe Graf got shoved out wide and going into turn 3. You say what you want about it. A lot of people just love to crap on Joe Graf for the sake of crapping on Joe Graf, and I understand it. Some of it's warranted, some of it's not. This was not all on Joe Graf, but this was not all on Hemrick. Joe came down slightly, but Hemrick came up slightly. It was one of those classic cases that we've seen a million times in the sport. And unfortunately, the 07 and the 11 got wrecked, which actually put an end to the 11's day, likely because it killed the toe and the front suspension had been knocked out. When you think of it in the grand schemes, it really has not been a good season so far for the 11 of Daniel Hemrick either. It's been kind of a rough go for both. For a lot of colleague this season, they haven't really had a lot of success. Forgotten in that crash, though, was the 38 of Loris Hezemans. And this was another thing that bothered me on Fox. They only showed one replay, and they never, ever said who that car was that went through the grass. It was like after the crash, 5 minutes later, they showed the grass just torn up in a splitter. Never said who it was. And to me, that's crap. That's bull. You should know. You should have an eye. You should have replays. That is unacceptable. But it was the 38 of Loris Hezemans. And unfortunately, that might put an end to Reive's Xfinity program for the time being, as that car is now demolished as well. I would say in total, probably $75,000 in total, $75,000 to $100,000 of damage for Josh Reive today. So a really, really bad day for Josh Reive, and I think that guy just needs a hug. I know that sounds weird, but at the end of the day, when you're having a bad day, you just need a hug. And poor Josh. I like Josh. He's a hard worker, but man, that you couldn't ask for a worse day. And yeah, like I said, that pretty much. I don't know if Loris is gonna. I think they were actually going to run that car at COTA, but that's not going to run now because that splitter was destroyed. But yeah, unacceptable by Fox not to mention that on the air. Just like I said, the broadcast was horrible. Like, I love this sport, but man, Fox has just been horrendous this season, and I don't want to see anyone defend it. It's been horrendous. The racing product has been fine. This has nothing to do with the racing product. It's the broadcast of the racing product is what we have a problem with. So then 7 laps later, Sam Mayer spun out. By this point, the lead had traded multiple times, and it was clear that we had some major comers and goers. We had Noah Gragson as kind of the lead car. Trevor Bayne was a car to beat. Allmendinger was pretty much the only colleague car that probably had a chance to win. But we also had some other unique cars up front at one point. We had the 44 and the 45 Alpha Prime cars. And like I said, even Jade Buford, before his crash, at one point was running inside the top 5. That was at the beginning of stage 1 or the end of stage 1. So we had some good underdog moments. But unfortunately, none of those guys keep those runs up. Like I said, with Jade crashing, the 44 would eventually crash, and the 45 of Tommy Joe overall would get about where he usually finishes of 20th. So by this point, lap 130, 35 laps to go. The car to beat is still Trevor Bayne, but Austin Hill is also holding strong. We go back green again. The 28 and the 68 got together, which left not really major damage to any of their cars. They all kept continuing, but it would kind of hinder their performance. And 10 laps later, we had the big one, which actually only took out about 5 or 6 cars. It didn't take out a huge pile of cars, but involved a lot of people, involved over 10 cars, and killed a lot of good runs. I think it was just somebody going for a hole that wasn't there, and all 4 of the Junior Motorsports cars were involved. I think both of the Alpha Prime cars were involved. The 27 again for Our Motorsports was involved. The 99 of Parsons was involved. Even Ty Gibbs was technically credited with being involved in this crash. It was really weird. What it actually only took out, it officially only took out 3 cars from that crash. After what seemed like an ice age of getting this race back going again, we ran exactly 1 lap. And as we were coming to the green, the 31, who had just had damage kind of all day, was sparking real bad. And even though Myatt Snyder later after the race would go on Twitter to defend himself, saying that the car was fine, well, the 98 of Riley Herbst just wanted to move him out of the way. Not probably 3,000 feet after the finish line. Second place, Myatt Snyder has turned. And unfortunately, a great run for Jordan Anderson Racing is over. So, and then Riley Herbst looks like he might even have a chance to win. Ryan Sieg, he might have a chance to win. A lot of good stories up front. We might have a good winner. Unfortunately, that wouldn't happen. We'll get to that in a second. We would run another lap, but again, barely get just a lap in before the white, before we could get the white flag. As once again, man, BJ McLeod Motorsports, these guys got to be running out of cars. BJ McLeod Motorsports has wrecked a ton of equipment this year. It's not even really the driver's fault. They just keep getting caught up in accidents. Matt Mills crashes hard, gets into his teammate Stefan. Stefan finishes, but car is demolished. And overall, the 78 of Josh Williams, just like, Josh Williams was just kind of there tonight. Again, you question a couple of things. Was the move to BJ the right move? I want to say yes, but the performance just hasn't been there yet. But obviously, it's still early. But man, I tell you, it's not really been a good start to 2022 for BJ McLeod Motorsports. Just so many destroyed cars, and a little bit of preview of the COTA situation. All 3 of them are outside the top 30. And all 3 of them will need to make the show on time. There is a possibility all 3 of the BJ McLeod entries could miss next weekend's race at COTA. And man, that would be an absolute disaster for that team to have all 3 of the BJ McLeod entries miss the show. But it's possible. It could happen. So they got that cleaned up. We went under a red flag. So it's a final restart. Ryan Sieg, ironically enough, has Ty Gibbs right behind him. To his inside, I believe to his inside was a hard charging. Actually, Ryan Sieg was leading the race. I believe Austin Hill was to his inside. And Ryan Sieg gets a great restart. He clears him. He's leading. And then I knew this was going to happen. Off of turn 4, Ryan, and I'm like, he's way too far out front, and sure enough, here comes the 54. How ironic that it's the 54 of all people. Ryan leads the white flag. 54 just goes sailing on by. And he got such a lead, the cars couldn't catch him. Ty Gibbs leads just 1 lap, the most important one, and steals, just like Vegas, he stole another victory. 2 victories this season, and he's only led 7 laps. Frustrating, man, but it is what it is. Luck is luck. Hopefully he went on that date. Apparently he had a date he had to go on, but Oh, gosh, I felt so bad for Ryan Sieg. You want to see the family-owned team. In this day and age, you don't see a lot of family-owned teams even be remotely competitive. And how great it would have been to see CMR Roofing and Ryan Sieg get a win. And the worst part is they didn't even get second. They fell back to 10th. They led the white flag lap and fell back to 10th. Oh, that's a kick in the nuts. That is a massive kick in the nuts. But Ty Gibbs wins. Second win of the season. So he's going to the championship. Austin Hill was second. A. Jumding was third. Riley Herbst gets a good finish. Landon Castle gets a top 5. Really good run for him. And then the underdog stories of the race, my happiest part of today. Mason Massey, a Georgia native, gets 6th place for DGM. Kyle Weatherman, in his last of 5 races for DGM, gets 8th. And, so close. J.J. Yaley for MBM Motorsports, Carl Long, gets 11th. Great underdog stories, and that's what I always love to see out of this sport. Some other great underdog runs. Ryan Vargas. That team has had the dog SHIT of luck this season. 12th place. Jeffrey Earnhardt, 13th. Moffitt, solid 14th. Shane Lee for the Emmerling Gase team, 17th. Just some great stories in the top 20, man. Really, really good stories. You love to see it. You feel for Kyle Weatherman because the report is that had he found the sponsorship, he would have continued to drive the 92. That was also a deal to him at the beginning of the season, was that, yes, this is only for the first 5 races, but if he can find a sponsorship, we will continue to put him in the car. So tough deal there. And I would kind of expect probably Preston Pardis to drive that car next week. Either way, disappointing winner. That's just me. I'm not a big Ty Gibbs fan. But the race itself, I would give it a 6 to 7 out of 10. Way better than the truck race. We did have choo-choo racing, but we also had some competitive racing as well. However, the broadcast gets a 2. It was not a good broadcast. And I don't even really blame the announcers. You can't really blame the announcers. They were doing a little bit better at calling play-by-play. The production. I don't blame Brad. I don't blame Joey. I don't blame Adam. And I don't blame Jamie. I don't blame any of them. I just blame Fox as a whole. It's just, I don't know why it's so bad. I really don't. How hard is it to broadcast a race? How hard is that? Is it really that difficult? These guys have been doing it for over 20 years. I don't know. Me and a lot of people were really frustrated at the broadcast of today's episode. Like, it made us mad. How does a broadcast of a race make someone mad? I don't know. But the race was okay. The broadcast was not. That's just how we'll put it. And of course, we'll get into our storylines right here. So like I said before, some other good runs we had. Tommy Joe Martins and Alex LeBay rounded out your top 20. Like I said, Josh Williams was just kind of there in 22nd. I am kind of curious to see where RSS is going to go with these 28 and 38 cars. As far as we know, the 38's running full time and the 28 is not. And I'm kind of curious to see on how that's going to go. Because right now, the 28's only scheduled for Kyle Sieg to run his maybe 10 to 15 races, while the 38 is going to be the second full-time car. So I'm kind of curious, will we see Kyle in the 38? Will we even see a 28 car next week? I don't know. So that's kind of some storylines right there. Again, the highest finishing BJ car, only 22nd. We had 30 cars finish the race officially. Jesse Iwuji was involved in one of those crashes. And, despite people saying that he would cause the big one, Jesse relatively stayed out of trouble. He kind of ran his own race, finished 27th. Still no good for that team, though, in terms of owner's points. The 34 of Jesse Iwuji is still 38th in the points. And For Jesse Iwuji's sake, he's driven road courses before, but I can already say right now, there is no way that Jesse Iwuji is going to qualify that car in on time. With all due respect to Jesse Iwuji, there is no way he is going to qualify that car in on time. They will probably have to find a road ringer. Now, who's available? I've been throwing names out like Greg Gaulding, or go get somebody from Trans Am or IMSA. There's lots of free agents out there that will do these kind of races for really cheap prices. You guys would be shocked. But I'm telling you guys, the 34 team, if Jesse Iwuji plans on driving COTA, he will be a DNQ. Because I love Jesse, and he's driven road courses, but he's not driven them fast. And there's no way, let's say we have even 39 entries, there's no way he's going to beat 8 cars. It's just not going to happen. He's not quick enough. He's just not quick enough. So he's only 38th. Mike Harmon Racing, crew chief Ryan Bell did announce that they will be at COTA, so that team will be there. Will they be there with Brennan Poole, or will they be there with a road ringer? Well, we'll see. Like I said, all 3 of the BJ McLeod Motorsports cars, they are 34th, 36th, and 37th. Must qualify in on times for those 3 cars. Like I said, there's a possibility all 3 of them could miss the show. And that would be absolute detrimental to this season for those guys. Absolute disaster. I would say that'd probably be close to an $80,000 loss in terms of travel, hauler bills, tire bills. Probably a good $80,000 loss. So I really don't want to see that for BJ. So you look at Big Machine Racing, Jade Buford, they're only 38th, but I'm not really concerned about them. As long as Jade can run a clean lap, he's got RCR power, he's a good road racer, that car should be fine. I'm not really worried about Jade. Other cars to worry about, the 38 of RSS Racing is only 33rd in the points. Josh Balicki is scheduled to drive the 45 at COTA. So again, I'm not worried about that either. We know Josh is a really good road racer, so I'm not worried about that car. The 35 of Emmerling Gase, we've seen this team not really show a lot of speed. They're only 31st. Who are they going to get to drive COTA? Joey's not a road racer. Shane Lee's not a road racer. I would probably expect a guy but maybe a guy from Trans Am or a local road ringer to run that car and even then, Emmerling Gase just has not shown a lot of speed. They've just been kind of getting lucky with their finishes. But if I was a betting man, I probably would say that the 35 might miss the show next week. Not because of lack of effort. I just think the speed is just not there in that team out of what I've seen this season. That's just my opinion. Jordan Anderson Racing's 31 car. I would be worried there too. And same thing for Ryan Vargas. And actually both of the JD cars. Like I said, same thing with the truck race. I would say if you're 25th or 26th on back, I don't think you're safe. I don't think you're safe at all. Now, again, how many cars did we have last year? We had 43, 44 cars? Will we have that same amount? Probably. Probably so. Here, we'll go. Here, you guys stay with me right here. We're going to go look it up on Wikipedia right now where they have the chart. So stay with me right here for 1 second, guys. So basically, you got your full-time cars, which I would put that around 38 to 39. And then you have your part-time cars. Wouldn't be shocked if the 77 shows up again. Again, the 13 might show up again with a different driver. I don't know, guys. It's amazing to see. We don't know for sure. Wikipedia is not showing much, but I would predict a minimum probably 42 to 43 cars. And at that sake, 5 DNQs, I would say if you're 26th and below, you better get in that top 33. And again, we could have what happened last year. We could have qualifying in the rain. That really affected a lot of these cars last season. And I would say if we didn't have qualifying in the rain, a lot of cars that missed the show probably could have made it. Again, it'll be interesting to see, but a lot of storylines going into COTA. That's why COTA qualifying session is one of my favorite qualifying sessions of the year. And you think about it, guys, it's got to set you up for the next couple of weeks. After COTA, we go to Dover. After Dover, we go to Talladega. Lots of tracks coming up that you desperately need to have those owner points to make sure you're guaranteed into these races. All the while, it's just going to be a very interesting weekend next weekend at COTA. And again, for the person who passed away at Winchester, whoever you are, God, sorry you lost your life. Thoughts and prayers are with that person's family. You always hate to see it happen. Anytime there's a tragedy in racing, it's just sad. So, again, I hate to end the podcast on a sad note, but if you guys hadn't checked it out, you guys can look it up on Twitter, apparently. Maybe you guys can get the details yourselves. But anyway, again, guys, I think, again, check out COTA. It's going to be fun. As, of course, this Wednesday, we got the ARCA Racing podcast. We got our Pensacola review. The race literally got over 90 minutes ago. I thought it was a great race. Despite having a really small field and the 18 winning again, we had competitive racing. We had dumps. We had just beating and banging. It might have been a small field, but, man, they made the most of it. One of the best races of East, one of the best East races that I had seen at least in the last 2 years. I'm not going back far, but at least 2 years. And then we also will give our previews for the West Irwindale race. The West runs its first West-only event at Irwindale next Saturday. Again, lots of racing action to come. So join me Wednesday for the ARCA Racing podcast. If you guys love Hooters, who doesn't love Hooters? Well, if you guys don't remember, Hooters had an energy drink back in 2007. They sponsored a race team called Pennington Motorsports. I made a video about the Pennington Motorsports team and their short-lived tenure in NASCAR. Go check that video out. You know, if you guys are like, what the heck is Hooters energy drink? Go look up the video. But like I said, follow me on social media, like, subscribe, turn on that bell. And just all I can say is thank you for your guys' support. I love you guys. And we'll see y'all real soon. Love you guys. Have a good rest of your Saturday night. And let's watch some cup racing tomorrow. So long, guys.